WhiteBooks, where the government appointed GSP and ISO 27001 2000 certified company. We won't store any of your data. Our servers are pass-through servers. Nowhere your client data will saved in our servers. That is why topmost clients like Procter & Gamble, Kia, IBM, HUL, KPMG, Coca-Cola, Razorpay, Vodo, all these are our customers. So your client data is very safe and secure when you use our API calls. So coming to APIs, we are providing different type of APIs like GST API, e-bill API, and e-invoice API and GST APIs. If you want to use our APIs, first you can create a login by going to sign up and select developer as a login. Enter your basic information like name, mobile number, and email ID. When you click on submit, it will trigger the OTP to the mobile number and email ID which you mentioned here. Once you enter the OTP, your login will get created with WhiteBooks. Once you click on sign up, once you click on sign in here, you have to enter the email ID and password to log into our website. Once you log in here, you can see three different type of verticals like GST API, e-bill API, and e-invoice API. Right now, I will take you through the GST API. Once you created a login, automatically the sandbox credentials will get created and will get enabled. You can find out those credentials like client ID, secret ID, username, password, and GST number in the credentials part. There will be different client IDs and secret IDs coming to sandbox and production here. You can go to resources and download our Postman collection and use our client IDs, secret IDs, usernames in sandbox, and you can test through Postman also or from your application. If you want to use our Swagger, here we are providing our Swagger also. You can here we are providing two different type of enrollment, sandbox and production. So there will be a slight change in the base URL coming to sandbox and production. So here I will take you through the first public API calls, where government is giving 5 API calls coming to the public, where you don't need any authentication token or authentication OTPs to fetch the information, which is a publicly available data. Right now I'll take you through the production enrollment for this public API calls. Public GST and search, that means here you can enter the GST number and fetch the information. Email ID is always the registered email ID with WhiteBooks, not with your client email IDs. So coming to the client IDs and secret IDs, here I am providing you the different credentials. Here I am taking you the production client ID and secret ID here. Here I am passing it out. Now I can use any GST number which is registered with the GST portal, and I can fetch the information. I am taking the Reliance GST number here, and when I pass this email ID in the query parameter and GST number in the query parameter, client ID and secret ID in the header parameter. So when I click on execute, this is the curl, you will get it, this is the request URL. So this is how the response will be like SDJ, what is the state code, what is DTY, what is LGNM. If you want to find it out, you can go up and you can click here, it will route to the government portal, and you can find out the API calls, whatever we are providing, that can be fetch from here itself. Here I am going to the public API calls, view API list. Here you can see lot of API calls, but government didn't release all of them in production. Only 5 are there that you can find it in our website itself. Now I am going to search taxpayer. Here final is the latest one, where I am, whatever the response you can see here, you can see the same response in our WhiteBooks also. So if you want to understand what is SGJ CD, what is LGNM, you can drag down and click on download attribute details. It will download you and give you one Excel sheet, the information, what is LGNM, legal name of the business, what is state code, and everything. This is how you can find out the documentation for the same. Now we fetch the first API call. Now let's go to the second API call, which is public retract. That means you can enter the GST number and financial year. You can find out what are the filings they made for the financial year. And just this is not mandatory. If you want to find out only R1 means GST R1 information. So you can find out that is not a mandatory field. You don't need to enter. If you don't enter, it will give you all the information. So I'll use the sandbox, since I have to use the sandbox client, production client ID and secret ID. Here I am providing you the production client ID and secret ID here, and I will fetch the information for Reliance GST for the financial year of 24 and 25. So they made the filing of ITC 04 on this date. Date of filing is this ITC 04 GSTR 3B. GST or 3B. So this is how you can find it out, what are the filings they made for that financial year. Everything can be find it out from here itself. Next is public preference. This is a API call to find it out whether the GS number, whatever you are passing it here, whether they are monthly or quarterly filing person. You can find it out. If you want to find it out what is the response and everything, you can go to this government portal website and go to public APIs. You can see that API call get preference. You can see the response, whatever the response you can see here. This is how you can find it out. If you want to find out what is M, what is Q, you can download the attribute details from this website itself. So this is how the documentation, you can use the government documentation, and you can understand our APIs. Now I am going to the financial API calls. I will use the sandbox enrollment for this. So first is authentication to API, where I will hit the government portal, and government portal will throw the one TXN number as a response to us, and it will give you, it will send you the OTP to the registered mobile number and email IDs also. So here the username is in the credential part. I am providing this username here. I am passing the same username, and state code is always the first two digits of the GST number. Here I am using it as a 33, and IP address you can enter in any IP address. We are not going to block you or unblock you by the IP address. Government is asking only for the audit purpose. Here you have to send email ID in the query parameter, remaining all in the header parameters. So when you click on execute, what is this username means in production, where the client, where he will use to log into this gst.gov.in, right? That username you have to enter here. So that username, when it is there, you will get the message as username exists, and it will give you one TXN number as a response, and it will trigger the OTP to their client mobile number and email IDs. Now I am passing this TXN number here, and in sandbox enrollment, whenever you are testing, you can enter the default OTP, which is 5757. But coming to the production, you need to contact the customer for the OTP, and you can pass the OTP in the header parameter here, so that it will get validated, and it will give you the response as authentication succeeds. So let me trigger this API call now. When you click on execute, it is giving you the message as authentication succeeds. If you give the correct OTP, it will give you the message as succeeds. If you enter the wrong OTP, if authentication fails, is the message. So once you got an if authentication succeeds, this transaction number, whatever you validated, it is valid for 6 hours. But every 6 hours you can't take the OTP. That is why government is providing the refresh token API call, where you will enter this API call by passing the same TXN number. If you trigger this API call between 5 to 6 hours, let's take a scenario, you trigger one API call at 12 o'clock, it is valid up to 6 o'clock. We request you to make the refresh token API call between 5 to 6, so that same token will sustain for another 6 hours. That means you have to run one cron job in your application every 6 hours, 5 hours or 6 hours. The same token will sustain, but make sure you hit it before 6 hours. After 6 hours, the token will get expired, and you have to make the same procedure whatever we did right now. So before 6 hours, if you trigger an API call, that token will get sustained for another 6 hours. Next, if you want to file GSTR1, here you can get the data by using the get API calls. If you want to file save GSTR1, this is the API call to file the GSTR1 here. This is the JSON. Now if you want to understand the procedure, how to file and everything, here we are providing you the written processing document, what is the flow, how to use it and everything. You can download that document from here also. You can download the error codes, reference documentation, everything, find it out here. Now let's go to the developer website to understand the API calls, written API calls. Here you can see save GSTR1. Now you can go to this API call. Here you can find it out the latest version, which is final version 4.1. This is the request payload. This is the JSON you have to send it out. If you want to understand how to do it, click and download attribute details to understand each and every parameter, how it will, what is the NUM, what is ITM, DT, everything you can find it out. So this is how you will use the government documentation and prepare your JSON to file the GSTR1. At the same time, you can make amendments by using GSTR1A. You can download the 2A by using this API call. So whenever any API call in GST API, the TXN number is mandatory, which we are generating in the authentication API calls. Like that, you can download the 2x data here, 2b data here, everything by you can use our API calls. GSTR4 you can file it, GSTR5, 6, GSTR9 you can file it, 9J you can file it. You can file ITC03 and ITC04 also. You can download the cash ledger, credit ledger, liability ledger, all these API calls, and you can get the data for e-invoice also. You can get e-invoice HSN summary, get list of IRNs, get IRN JSONs also. Here the best thing in GST API is you can get the data of your sales and purchases also. You can download the acknowledgement number, acknowledgement date, IRN number and QR code. So you can create the e-invoices in your application itself, prints everything by using these API calls. If you have multiple clients, you can create a separate client ID and secret ID for them, and you can assign a limit to that client also. By you can assign only 1000 API calls to him. Once it got expired, the client will get a message by saying that your API is expired, please contact your software vendor. Like that, you can create the sub users here. Once the sub user got created, you can take a report in the dashboard. Here you can see how many API calls you people are using and everything. Here you can go to reports, API usage report. Here you can click on all to get monthly API calls. Everything you can download in Excel formats as per the month wise. If you want to get the user wise report, you can select the user, and here you can see the user wise report also. Everything you can find it out in the subscription part. If you want to make the payment, you can click on top up and you can select that, and you can enter the basic information and you can make the payment. So if you have any queries on this, you can call us on our support number. Thank you.